Hello, welcome. Welcome to my live. Hello, I hope someone's out there and can let me know if you can hear me. But this is the Immune Readalong live, which I'm super excited about. I'm just going to see if I can put this up on the screen so that I can see what this is. Hopefully no one in the chat just yet. Let's see. Let's share this one. Let's see. Oh, I've got some comments. Yay! Hello. So I am live and people can see me. That's good. I'm just going to see if I can put this up like this. Oh, look. The Immune Read-Along. Yeah, I thought I'd try out some sharing some stuff on the screen. So hello, everyone. Welcome. I can see, let's see who we've got. We've got Gem of Books, Keen Bean. Hello. Yes, Gem. Welcome. Alice, hello. Alice did a really successful live earlier in the week for this. So, hello, Alice. Yay. Yes, it is such a pretty book. Yeah, really pretty. Yeah, so the Immune Read-Along. So welcome, first of all. Just put my banners up. Welcome. And I'm going to chat a little bit about the book Immune and the read-along that we're doing for Tandem Collective at the moment, which is their first YouTube read-along event, actually. I've done events with the Tandem Collective over on Instagram, but this is their first YouTube event, so I'm really excited to be one of the people taking part in it. So, well, you know what I'm going to be reading, and I'm going to talk about it in a bit, but this is a reading sprint, so everyone else can bring along whatever they're reading. If you're part of the read-along, you might be reading Immune, catching up on it. If you are reading anything else, I'd like to hear about it in the chat. So just, let us know in the chat what you're reading, and I'll have a little talk to you about Immune in a moment. There we go. Yay. Hi, Ange. Yeah, so Ange, Alice and Gem are all taking part in the Immune read-along. And just wondering, I suppose, are you all going to be reading Immune today? Let's find out. Not sure if anyone else is here yet. What I'm going to do is have a little look at the, show you what I'm going to be having as my tea, because as part of the Tandem Collective, the lovely Tandem Collective who organised this reading event, they sent us a little care package along with the book. So I've got my copy of the book over here, and I've also been given some nice teas and all sorts of things. So I am going to try I've got it steeping away at the moment in my lovely favourite cup. I'm going to try the, I think it's cardamom and fennel. So cardamom and fennel infusion. I hope I've got the right glasses on, because, no, I've got my wrong glasses on. This is why I can't see up close. I have to wear bifocals at the moment if I want to read and see far away. Put those on. Okie dokie. Alice. Let me just stop sharing that, I think. So Alice says she's just finishing up cooking her dinner, starting on today's chapters of Immune. Yay, today's chapters. Yes, Alice, so the tea I chose, yes, the cardamom and fennel I chose. So they sent us some lovely teas. They sent us a Manuka honey one, chamomile and Manuka honey, I think it was, which the day I filmed my announcement video, you might have seen on the announcement video, if you watched it, that Dave, my partner, he was ill up the stairs. And as it turns out, he had COVID, which we didn't realise at the time, but we since found out he had COVID. So I gave him the Manuka honey tea. And this is elderberry and echinacea, which I think Alice had the other night on her live. And this is the Pucker Nighttime tea, which is, it's got valerian in it. It says oat flower, lavender and lime flower. And I do think, it doesn't say it has valerian. I think, but I've had the Pucker Nighttime tea before, and it just absolutely knocked me out. So Gem, I finished my chapters for today, so I'm cooking dinner. After the kids, then back to Elantris. So you finished your Immune chapters today. So we're going to chat about your chapters that you've read today and how things are going so far. Anne says she's catching up. She's just she's starting chapter 20. Is that right? So I can show you the schedule for where we're supposed to be today, because today is actually day 8 of the 13-day read along. So if anyone is not part of the Immune Read Along that's watching, this was organised as an event for the book Immune by Philipp Dettmer. Philipp Dettmer has an amazingly successful channel here on YouTube. Nearly 20 million people watch this channel. I'm just going to share the screen with you so you can see it. And it is called Kurzgast. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Kurzgast in a nutshell. Look at this amazing YouTube channel. So you can see all of this stunning, these stunning illustrations and these really bright, vivid illustrations. These are all throughout the book Immune, which is amazing. And the illustrations really bring this complex topic to life. So we're thoroughly enjoying it. So yeah, one of the things we've got to do as well is there are a series of challenges for the read along. So once we finish reading the book, we've got a series of challenges, one of which is going to be to watch and react to one of these videos. And there are so many ones that I just want to click on right now, but I'm not going to for the moment because obviously I'm doing my live. But yeah, so he runs that. And then the Immune Read Along itself, there is a schedule, which is, so this is day 8. So day 8 on the schedule, we're supposed to be reading, let me get it up. We're supposed to be reading pages 162 to 185. So I've mine is already set up at 162 to 185. Yesterday, I didn't physically read. I actually got myself a copy of the audiobook, which wasn't part of the read along. I purchased it myself. And because I've been enjoying it so much, and I've kind of been taking the book out with me. I didn't want to take this huge, heavy book out with me. So I've purchased the audiobook. And so I'm going to reread a little bit of the audio sections again to digest it, because even though it's kind of done in a nice, accessible way, it's still quite a complex thing to talk about the immune system. So I'm going to reread a bit of yesterday's pages, and then I'm going to read today's pages in this sprint. So the plan for today is we're going to be doing some sprints. I'm going to do at least 2 20-minute sprints. I'm hoping to do 3 20-minute sprints. So if you are along for the moment, I'm going to stop waffling in a minute, but I'm going to show the book a little bit and talk a little bit about what I've been enjoying, and then I'm going to get into my reading. So let's have a little look so far. And just catching up. Yes, the humour really brings it to life for me. Yeah, this is the thing. So I was thinking about sort of the format of the book and what I like about it so far. And at the start of the book, Philipp Dettmer, he really personalizes it, and he talks about his personal journey, his health issues, and the things that have affected his immune system. And he kind of really brings us along, sort of like to empathize with him. And then what he also does is he uses a lot of humour and analogy. So as Jem said just there, the humour really brings it to life. This is what makes it really accessible. He uses lots of humour, he uses lots of analogies and things like that, which I'll talk about when I talk about my favourite bits and things. And the illustrations are beautiful. So you can see we've got all these gorgeous illustrations inside. If I can find some. There we go. Oh, my ring light's not shining on it too much. There, so it's full of these gorgeous illustrations, and yeah, the repetition of ideas, and he summarizes things really nicely because there's quite a lot of complex information. So every now and again he'll stop and he'll go, let's just summarize that in a nutshell, which is the name of his channel. So it's really, really well done. The other thing that I like is when he sort of, after he summarizes it really simplistically, but he also doesn't include, like, it's such a complex topic that when there's something that's too complex, he just says, well, we don't really need to know about that right now, which is kind of for the purposes of this book, he doesn't need to explain certain things. So yeah, he even says at one point when he was going talking about the different types of cells, I think it was, or in a recent chapter, that you don't even need to know these parts, so you can skip it if you wanted to, which I didn't because I wanted to know about it. I think it was about the different antibodies. He said you can skip that, but I didn't. Okay, so I have purchased the audiobook too, but reading tonight. Yeah, I do prefer reading it physically, has to be said. Especially any book, really, I prefer to read physically to try and digest it if it's complex information. and just purchased the audiobook. I'm loving the humour and the analogies have helped me to visualise. Yeah, there's some really great analogies. So after this first sprint, I'm going to have a little chat about what I've read, but also a bit about my favourite bits. So have a little think if you are reading it, what your favourite bits have been so far. Because I'm going to have a little chat about mine. So just talk about one to start with. I've been reading it and tabbing. So I've been putting some tabs in as I read, try and keep track of certain things. So I've got purple tabs for really amazing information that I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I've got pink tabs. You can see I've kind of drawn a little heart on that one. I don't know if you can see, but I've got pink tabs for things that I just really enjoyed and really liked, or things that really resonated with me. And then I've got orange tabs for really key information that I want to come back to and remember. So the purple tabs are kind of that as well, but they're also sort of real moments of wow. So yeah, I've got quite a lot in here. So the first wow moment. So in terms of the analogies, what Alice was talking about, the analogies and the humor and helping visualize, one of my favorite parts is when he talks about if we built a human body to scale to try and imagine what the on page 38, the size of a cell and the size of bacteria in comparison. So he says if a human body would be, there are like 40 trillion cells in our bodies, and if a human was the size of a cell, then a bacterium, it's a singular, bacterium would be the size of a bunny, and there's at least one bacterium for every cell. So there are 40 trillion cells in your body, and that means there's 40 trillion bacteria, the majority of which reside in your guts, like 36 trillion bacteria in your gut. And then the rest of them, he says it's nice to think of them as bunnies, he said, because it won't be so horrifying when you realize that the rest of them are in your mouth, crawling all over your eyes, all over your skin, in your lungs, and that kind of thing. So he's like, yeah, it's much nicer to think of them as little cute bunnies than thinking of them as bacteria, but these are our friendly bacteria and things like that. Right, I'm going to do our first sprint if everyone's ready for it. Let's just see if there's anything more in the chat. When I have seen comments about what's to come, it sounded like fiction. Yeah, it does sound like fiction. So it's reading like fiction. It's really thrilling what we're reading as well at the moment. So I think it's a really thrilling read. The best part so far for me, my favorite part is when he describes what happens when you cut yourself and it's done like a battle scene. So I love that. Okay, see if we're ready to sprint. I'm going to put the clock on and we'll do 20 minutes and then we'll check back in. So let me see. It says I've got I've got another 6 people at the moment watching. So I wonder if anyone else from the other read-along, any of the other read-alongers will turn up. Right, I'm just going to share the screen. Put our clock on. And I will see you after. Oh my, some people might have joined us, a few more people while we were reading. How did everybody get on there? We do have a couple more sprints. Let's see. So Alice has said, yes. So, and before we went for the sprint, if you just joined us, we were talking about Immune, which is the book we're all reading along for part of the tandem read along, which is this fantastic book, Immune, A Journey into the Mysterious System That Keeps You Alive by Philipp Dettmer. And lots of us are reading this tonight because we're doing it as part of a read along. But if you are not part of a read along, whatever you are reading, pop it in the comments so I can see what you're reading. But before we went off, Ange said that when she looks at some of the stuff that's coming up, it sounds like fiction, and Alice has said it's true, because sometimes it reads like a brutal thriller and you remember it's really happening in our bodies. So this is really true. So one of the things I'm going to talk to you about what I just read, but in order to do that, I kind of want to talk about the fact that earlier I said he uses analogies and humor really well, and Alice was saying the same thing, that he uses analogy and humor really well to help us sort of understand this really complex system. And in this chapter about the cut, he starts off beforehand talking about the desert kingdom of the skin. So our entire sort of, aside from the parts where bacteria can get in, where we've got openings in our body, the rest of us is covered in skin. And he talks about the importance of skin and how it forms this amazing barrier against the fact that everywhere around us there are pathogens, bacteria, viruses. There's all sorts of things just constantly trying to invade and get inside us. And the skin does an amazing job of keeping everything out. One favourite fact I did want to point out, though, when he talks about bacteria, being tiny little bunnies, he talks about how many bacteria we have in our bodies. So he talks about one bacterium. If a cell was the size of a human being, then one bacterium is the size of a bunny. And then he says that in 1 gram of soil, where is it, on page 38? I love this fact. So he says, on 1 gram of soil, it says there is up to 50 million bacteria in 1 gram of soil, which sounds like a lot. But in 1 gram of plaque on your teeth, which is why it's amazing he says here, in 1 gram of plaque on your teeth, more bacteria are living their life there than there are humans on planet Earth right now. So if you need a motivating story for your kids about why they should brush their teeth, and also to give them nightmares, there you go. I love that. But yeah, so he's talking about like the skin. And then my favorite chapter so far was this one about the cut. And so he does this at someone going for a walk in the woods and stepping on a nail. And then what happens when the skin is breached, when you have a cut, and then you feel that irritation and inflammation start. And that's your cells trying to like fight any invading bacteria. So there are so you have these sentinel cells, which are the biggest ones that you have, called macrophages, and he likens them to like a huge rhino, like going in and completely rampaging and smashing up these bacteria bunnies that are invading your body, which is a really good analogy. So he talks about them as like he says they're like an enraged rhino, and what they do is they grab hold of the cell and then they ingest it and eat it alive. So this whole thing is really kind of brutal, which I loved. Yeah, we will have more sprints. We'll have more sprints, Alice, don't worry. I think I'm going to have at least 2 more sprints, maybe more if we want people to want to stay on for a bit longer. We'll see how people feel. Oh, roast chicken dinner. Yum, yum, yum. I've got, funny enough, so you're talking about your dinners, and the chapter we've just read was all about your gut and how amazing that is to digest food. Anne needs the sprints because she's got to catch up this evening. Me too, Anne. So, well, I'm not going to catch up, but it takes my time to read. So I managed to do, what did I do? Page 162 to 166, but I kind of also went back over some of the pages from the previous chapter. I'll talk about those in a moment. Hi there, Hilda. I'm reading The Affair, Jack Reacher book, enjoying it so far. Alice is a big Jack Reacher fan. If you are subscribed to Alice, or if you're not subscribed to Alice, go and subscribe to her. She's got an amazing knowledge of Jack Reacher, but you probably know that already. Homemade curry, yum. No reading yet. Yeah, I've got a turkey chili downstairs waiting for me. My favourite bit overall so far was Murder University. Yes. So what Alice is talking about is the chapter where Philipp Dettmer talks about how cells are taught at Murdy University. Let me see if I can find it. I think, yeah, it was so brilliantly done. So he talks about how, in the Murdy University of the thymus. So there are different parts of our bodies where cells get trained, basically. And so he talks about the thymus and the Murdy University of the thymus, which is here. And the thymus looks like this. Hopefully my ring light won't shine off a bit. But that's what the thymus looks like. And it sits kind of here, I think. Yeah, so there's a kind of like just sort of about here your thymus sits. And these T cells have to get trained up within your thymus to recognize certain to recognize, where are we? Yeah, they go to they get taught to recognize certain things. So it says they may be the most important adaptive immune cell you have. Without T cells, you're quite dead. But before they can fight for you, they need to pass the horribly dangerous curriculum in the thymus. Failing a test here doesn't mean bad grades. Failing here means death. So he compares like these cells as if they're going to university or going to school for the first time and what might happen. So it says that if your T cell doesn't pass these tests, it's killed. So it has all these different tests where it's like, do you recognize this? And it's being shown by the thymus. Did I say thymus every time? It's being shown by the thymus your own cells, so that if it's defective, it will start thinking your cells are things it has to attack, and that's how you end up with autoimmune diseases. I'm really paraphrasing here. But what it does is there are 3 tests. And the first test is making sure the T cells have the ability to make T cell receptors. So it says, if this was a regular school, this would be the teachers checking if the students have all their notebooks and required reading material with them. Only they would not send the students home if they forget something, but rather they would shoot them. I won't go on to say it's really like, and then the next one is they would order them to kill themselves. And then the next one. So apparently from all the T cells that are created, only 2% of them actually make it out of the University of the thymus. They call it the Murdy University in the book, which was great. Really, really great. So talked about the skin, and the bit that I've just read is where we're talking about the internal second layer of skin that we have, which is called the mucosa. And the mucosa is the lining of our mouths, our guts, our intestines, and everything else. So when your skin is breached, the cells all converge and they completely try and attack all the bacteria that go into a cut. And they do that without any discrimination. They basically can kill healthy cells and all sorts of things. They go on this massive rampage. And you've got some cells that can, like a kamikaze cells, that go in and like completely just commit suicide and just take down everything around them, even if it's a healthy cell of yours, just to try and kill this bacteria, because it's really important that it does that. If it did that in your gut, you would die, because your gut has also got to absorb food. So the gut bacteria and the gut cells and the mucosa, which is kind of like the slimy coating inside you, is really important. So yeah, I think that was really fascinating. So a couple of the things that really stood out for me, it talks about the mucosa, and here we go. This is our mucosa. There we go. There's a layer that's kind of protecting us from bad things, but letting in good nutrients as well. So it's a really tricky process to get right, and really, really tricky to balance. And it says here, just imagine your immune system attacking every little unwanted bacterium sitting on a piece of food with as much anger as the bacteria in our rusty nail scenario when it went through the skin. Imagine it reacting violently to every little flake of dust that you breathed in. And no immune system of the swamp kingdom can be as aggressive as the immune system in other parts of the body, or it would simply destroy the places made for the exchange of gases and resources, which can make your life miserable or even kill you. So yeah, sounded really nasty. So what did everybody else read? Reading The Wolf Den. Hi, Paris, Texas. Yeah, you were here with us last week from the Netherlands. That's right. Jem, I told Sam, that's her son, the bacteria on teeth story. He went and brushed his teeth straight away. I'm not surprised. It's wrong. Made me go, oh my gosh. Oh, Hilda, I love Jack Reacher. I'm reading Blue Moon from that series when I'm not reading Immune. Yeah, so this morning we did Sprint, or this afternoon at lunchtime we did Sprint, and Alice was reading a Jack Reacher book. And I freaked my girls out with the fact about bacteria on teeth. Yeah, I'm going to tell the kids at school that. Hi, Hilda. Yes, Murder University was awesome. That book sounds really good. I'm putting it on the pile of possibilities. It is really good. I'm so happy to have been taking part in this, because this is a sort of book for anyone who's not really got a scientific sort of background or expertise. My science knowledge is kind of secondary school level, really. And yeah, that's it. So this is perfect for me, this book. Hilda, hi Ange, and yes, I'm subscribed to you, Alice. I've all the Reacher books and I'm working my way through them, about 3 to 5 a year. Yes. Who has a good memory? Me? Definitely not. But yeah, there was so I was going to talk to you a bit more about the mucosa, because it's a slimy mucus coating that kind of keeps things out and lets good things in. That's about as simplistically as I can put it. But it says here, the slimy mucus serves multiple purposes. In the simplest sense, it is just a physical barrier, so intruders have a harder time reaching the cells that it covers. Imagine swimming in a pool filled with slime, and then imagine trying to dive to the bottom, only the pool is 300 feet deep. Please excuse this mental image. And mucus is not just a sticky barrier, but also filled with unpleasant surprises, similar to the desert kingdom, the skin. Salts, weaponized enzymes that can dissolve the outsides of microbes, and special substances that sort of sponge up crucial nutrients that bacteria need to survive, so they starve to death inside the mucus. I mean, yeah, it's kind of like reading a horror story. Interestingly, I was in school last week, and we did a survey with the students about what they're reading, and one of the children in year 3, we asked him what their favourite book was, and he said it was Immune by Philipp Dettmer, and he absolutely loves this book. Absolutely loves it. He's very bright. Absolutely loves this. All right, I'm going to go in for my second sprint, and I was going to talk to you the next bit. I've read a little bit about the gut, and I really enjoyed the story about the poo transplants in the Second World War, which I'll talk to you about after the next sprint. So I'm going to go for another 20 minutes. Hopefully people will get a good bit of reading done. I'm just going to reset my clock. Yeah, where are we? Ange says, after Murder University, it made me think of bacteria like the characters in Monsters University. How does my mind work? Same. I keep thinking this would make an excellent Pixar film. A little bit, but yeah. All right, I'm going to put the timer on, and we're going to sprint for 20 minutes. Oh, make sure I put the timer actually on. Start. And yeah, hopefully everyone will get a good bit of reading done, and I'll see you in 20 minutes. Hello. I hope everybody got a good bit of reading done there. I had to stop when I was reading and just go like this at one point. So we were talking earlier, if you've just joined us, I'm reading Immune, because that's the read-along book that this reading sprints are in aid of. But if you've just joined us, what are you reading? Drop me in the comments below so I can see if you're reading Immune, if you're reading something else entirely. Have a little chat in the comments. But yes, before the break, I'd read about the section about the mucosa, which is the sort of lining, the internal, well, it's not really skin, but it's kind of like your second skin, but it's inside that lines your sort of all the way down in your guts and everything else, and helps you absorb good nutrients and keep out bad bacteria. So it's a really delicate balance. So then it was talking about the gut. So the next chapter is called The Weird and Special Immune System of Your Gut. Now, I'm quite interested in this because I read a book a couple of years ago called Gut. It's a really, really good book. I can't remember who the author is. I'll put it into the chat if I remember. And it's really fascinating to me because I've kind of suffered with some problems over the years of, like, you know, IBS and various things like that. So I'm always quite interested in what goes on in the gut. And there were some really interesting things. So Alice has just said here, good job I'd finished eating about the poop transplant footnote was rather gross. So it starts talking about the gut and the bacteria that live in the gut. So it says on your gut mucosa, around 30 to 40 trillion individual bacteria from 1,000 different species and tens of thousands of species of viruses make up your gut microbiota. The vast majority of viruses in your gut are hunting the bacteria living there and are not interested in you. And we're going to go on to viruses in a sec because I just read the chapter on viruses for this round of sprints and it was horrifying. Absolutely horrifying. And I suppose it's something I've been really interested in reading about because of what's happened recently, of course, the pandemic and everything else. There's a whole section on what we're using to fight viruses. What have we been having? Oh, the injections we've been having. What are they called? Antiviral injections. What are they called? Vaccines. I've forgotten the word. But yes, I got a bit word blind there. But yeah, so it's talking about the gut bacteria, and there's this footnote and an aside about poo transplants, which I'd read about in that gut book, and there was a CV show on about a few years ago about poo transplants and how they can help with certain diseases of the gut. And it said that it's an ancient thing. They discovered when in World War II, German soldiers were suffering from, they were in North Africa, and it said they were suffering from, they failed conquest of North Africa by the German army. Among problems like landmines and, well, losing a huge problem the German troops faced was dysentery, a chronic inflammation that causes horrible cramps and dizziness, diarrhea and dehydrations. And of all the places, the desert is not the place to lose a lot of water, and that can be deadly. The problem was simply that the soldiers were not used to some of the local microbes, and since this was a time before antibiotics, they had little recourse to action. A medical science unit that was sent to find a way to help the suffering men out discovered something peculiar, though. Locals who got sick did not die of dysentery, but instead collected the poop of camels and ate it. And to the utter astonishment of the observers, usually within a day, the sickness disappeared. The locals had no idea why it worked, just that it did, and that it had been done for generations. So the German doctors examined the camel poo and found Bacillus subtilis, a bacteria that suppressed other bacteria, among them the kinds that cause dysentery, and they cultured it in large amounts and administered it to the sick and dying troops. So yeah, that's pretty amazing, but also disgusting. I've heard about poo transplants, but not actually eating it. But if you were dying of dysentery or you had it, you would try anything, I imagine, to do that. This chapter reminded me of one of the last non-fiction science books I probably read, which was Disgusting Digestion from the Horrible Science series a long time ago. Yeah, Horrible Science, like the Horrible Histories. Yeah, they're really good books. Kids love them. But I also like reading them too. But yeah, if anyone's interested in the gut, that's a really good book to read, Guts. It's a really wonderful one. I can't remember who the author is, but you can Google it. It was a non-fiction book from a couple of years ago. Yeah, I put that in when I suddenly went, because the next section I read was on viruses, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Gemma tidied up the dinner stuff, read about 8 pages of Elantris. She's loving it. She's reading Brandon Sanderson's Elantris. She's been reading it for a few weeks, haven't you, Jem? I finished the gut chapter, it's just starting on viruses. Yeah, viruses. The chapter on viruses had me gasping, absolutely gasping. The gut is your immune system and your mental health. Yes, that's Julie. Hi, Julie. Yeah, the gut is your immune system and your mental health. So if you are interested in that book, I'm going to look it up. It's called Gut, and it talks about the connection between your microbiome and your emotional and mental health. Because if your gut is in distress, it sounds like, it will make you, but depression and anxiety and all sorts of things are linked to unhealthy sort of issues with your gut, which I found really interesting because I've kind of had some anxiety over the years, and I also have had issues with IBS and things, so it's all linked. And they've also discovered, like, if they can resolve issues, for some people, if they can resolve issues with the gut, they can actually lift some depression and things like that. So I'm oversimplifying, so I'm sure it's more complex than that. Angie's book chatter. I'm going to start chapter 22. I've been reading about T and B cells and how complex it all is. Yes, that chapter about T and B cells was really complex, but he's done well to explain it. And also what I quite like about Philipp Dettmer's approach is it's very humorous, and he tries to not overload you with information that is like, well, actually, there's a lot more to it than this, but there's no point in telling you about it because you just need this information to understand what we're going to talk about, which I really liked. Yes, thanks, Alice. I couldn't remember the word. Vaccines. Why would I not remember that word? Vaccines. It's like ridiculous. So, Julie, I worked in the medical field for over 25 years and was in infection control. I cannot unknow my knowledge, especially with all the problems over the couple of years. Yes, it's horrific. And we talked about the way Philipp Dettmer uses analogy to bring these ideas to life. And the section on viruses has one of the most horrific paragraphs I think I've ever read. It's very frightening. Hello. And Ange, I think she was about to type something and then managed not to. But so I was talking to you about some of my favourite parts of it. I'm going to talk to you about the viruses that I've just read about viruses, though, because that is, as I'm sure Julie knows from what she's saying, it's really horrific. So viruses are the simplest of all self-replicating sorts of living things, though depending on who you ask, they may not even be considered alive. So viruses are, it's not really clear how they came to exist, but it's very likely that they are ancient and already existed when the last common ancestor of all living things on Earth was alive billions of years ago. Some scientists think viruses were essential steps to the emergence of life, and others think they're the result of an ancient bacterium taking the path of becoming simpler instead of more complex. But whatever the truth, viruses are incredibly successful. In fact, viruses are arguably the most successful entity on the planet. It is estimated that there are 10 to the power of 31 viruses on Earth, which is 10,000 billion individual viruses on Earth. Luckily, only about 200 of them are interested in human cells. And then it says, where are we? Yeah, it talks about how viruses infect cells, and they need specific cells to infect. So they need to find a cell with a specific receptor, and receptors are the things that cover the outside of cells, and they're the protein recognition parts. They cover sort of half the outside surface of cells. And so what the virus does, the holes of viruses are spiked with special proteins that connect to a certain receptor type on their victim's surface, which is the cell. So viruses in this chapter are made to sound like absolute nightmare, horrific things, which they are. We all know they are. The last few years have taught us anything, it's that. And it says here what a virus does, and it sounds straight out of a horror film. It says a virus will go into the cell, it will enter the cell, and it will force the cell to replicate more of the virus, and it will replicate up hundreds to thousands of another copy of itself until the cell starts releasing them or bursts and then release more of the virus to infect more cells. And the analogy that Philipp Dettmer uses is horrific. He said, I won't go into it, but it's about spiders in your brain and your body, imagining that a virus is a spider going into you and replicating itself and then burst out of you. So it was like, I did repeat it, didn't I? But it made me go, like that. The horror. So where are we? He did a great job, but it made me think of Cilla Black's Blind Date. That's when Philipp Dettmer was talking about the different types of cells. Is that it, Ange? The T and B cells. He talks about the dance of the T and B cells and how they replicate, I think. Blind Date. Showing my age. No, I love, yes, I remember Blind Date very, very well. I was interested how we are attracted to others who have a different immune system unconsciously. That was one of my favourite facts. I was going to share that in a short. So I've done I was going to start doing a series of shorts on amazing facts from immune. And one of my favourite facts, it was about that. So we are attracted like a subconscious level by smell to someone. We can smell other people's immune systems, and we won't be attracted to people who have a similar immune system to us. We're not supposed to be attracted to people who have a similar immune system to us. So people who are genetically close to us is why you don't have that thing, because you're attracted to someone who has the antibodies and things that you don't have, so that when you produce offspring, that offspring will have both sets of immunity. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Clearly, I'm not a scientist here, but I found that fascinating. And it was about the fact that, your sense of smell plays a huge part in attraction, and not just if someone's wearing the right perfume or something, obviously, but Paris, Texas says, yeah, that makes me not reconsider wanting to read it. I'm very happy not being aware of all of that. I think, I know what you mean, but at the same time, he does it with such humor, because the next part, and he talks about there was a bit where he talks about something which was quite funny, and he says stuff like, well, about what viruses do, which is what evolution does. Viruses replicate really, really fast, which also means they mutate really, really fast. And not all mutations are very good. Majority of mutations won't work, but out of all the mutations that they try, something will work. And he says it's kind of the equivalent of throwing something at the wall. I won't repeat, but throwing something at the wall until it sticks approach. And it's quite effective. And he says, actually, this is the only trick that evolution has. It tries a lot of things, and whatever does not die before it makes a few offspring gets another attempt at making offspring before dying. Repeat this often enough, and then you get the amazing variety of living things on Earth and new strains of cold viruses every season. So basically, it's a mixed bag. It's like little comments like that make it really funny. The Blind Date theme tune is going to be lodged in my brain for the rest of the night now. Cheers, Ange. You old Vulcan gem. Oh, yes. That's every Saturday night as a child after Gladiators, I believe. Yes, it was Blind Date. I did want to talk to you about some of the other things that really stood out for me in it. I've got a couple of things that I've written down, which were my favourites. And so the thing that really blew my mind the other day, when he was talking about the adaptive immune system, and it says that your adaptive immune system, so you've got two immune systems, the innate immune system you're born with, the adaptive immune system that you develop over time as your body interacts with things and learns about them, and then, learns to fight them off. And when you're born, the innate immune system means that you don't die immediately, but you borrow part of your adaptive immune system from your mother, and usually if you're breastfed through your mother's milk and things like that. And I know from reading the gut book, you also borrow part of your mother's microbiome for your gut bacteria as well. So, but apparently your adaptive immune system, they call it the largest library in the universe. So for every microorganism that currently exists and possible pathogen on the planet that currently exists, and possible pathogens that may exist in the future, there is an answer for it within your adaptive immune system. Isn't that amazing? That's unbelievable. I thought that was just really amazing. All right, so Paris, Texas says, that is interesting. I know you can really be deceived by scent when you use hormonal birth control as well. Being attracted to persons you would not be attracted to when you wouldn't be on it. Oh, is that true? Interesting. Yeah, I think there's an awful lot. It's a really fascinating topic, actually. I'm sure there must be more on it out there. If anyone knows of any books or anything which delve into that specific side of the evolution, then that would be really interesting to read about. But what I would say about it, if you were concerned about any specific parts of this, because it did say there are sort of trigger warnings for reading Immune, because it is a full look at the human immune system. But what I do like, every chapter and heading and every part is very clear about what it's going to be about. So you've got a whole thing. So if you wanted to skip the bits on viruses, the bits on this, I think you probably could. And actually, knowing the specifics about how a virus invades a cell and stuff like that, I don't think you necessarily need to know huge amounts of it. But that's the first bit that's made me go, oh, my gosh. Some of it's maybe just go, wow. I think the biggest thing out of all of this for me has been how amazing the human body is. I mean, the complexity of everything that's going on inside us just to keep us upright and alive and supplied with all the things we need to do to just keep walking around and being here and reproducing is just amazing. Yeah, it's a real mind-blowing fact, that one. I don't mind it being disturbing. I also like Stiff by Mary Roach. Oh, what's Stiff by Mary Roach? What is that? The human body and its biology is amazing. It really is. I kind of reading stuff like this makes me really regret how poor science teaching was when I was at school. We try and make it as exciting as possible because I'm a primary school teacher, for anyone who doesn't know, and we try and make science as exciting as possible for the children at school these days, and try and make it as hands-on, and it's one of their favourite lessons when they do it now. But when I was at school, it was just really dull and textbook taught by textbooks, and wasn't made exciting and interesting. And I think this would have made it much more exciting and interesting for me. So the next part I'm going to read is all the immune system of the lungs. So we've got all this nice, where are we here? So we're talking about the immune system of the lungs, and this is the last part of the mucosa we're going to talk about. So one of the last bits, and actually I've started reading a bit of it, and it's talked about the fact that your lungs are taking constant particle. We know you're taking in gallons and gallons of air every day, and your lungs are filtering out they're doing an amazing job keeping your body free of pathogens. Though, of course, as we know, like you're living in a polluted area and stuff like that, the pathogens may affect you eventually, or will affect you eventually. Right. I think what we're going to do is going to read Sprint for another 20 minutes. I'm going to get to the end of today's sections by the looks of it. I've heard so many good things about Mary Roach. I got a book on animal behaviour by her for Christmas. So Mary Roach, I've not heard of Mary Roach. So thank you for mentioning that. I'm gonna investigate Mary Roach. Thank you. So 20 minutes more. Hopefully we'll get a bit more reading done. I'm hoping to get to the end of today's section, but if I get to the end before the end of the sprint, I'm going to carry on for tomorrow's sections as well, because I'm really fascinated. So because what's coming up in the book is sort of fighting off viruses and things like that. And there are whole sections on vaccines and viruses and things that I'm quite interested in reading about, given what's happened in recent years. Amelia, hey guys, sorry I'm late. Hoping to catch up on these chapters this evening before an early night. Rock and roll. Yes, Saturday night. Woo! Hi, Amelia. So Amelia is also one of our read-alongers from the Tandem Read-along. So welcome, Amelia. Now let's see. Right, I'm going to set the clock. Reset. All right. Hopefully everyone will get a bit of reading done in the next 20 minutes. I'll see you on the other side. Okay, let's see. Stop sharing that. How did everybody get on? Let me know in the comments. How did you get on with your sprint there? Did you get quite a bit of reading done? Hang on. Let's see. Kay Beth has joined us. Hope not too late. Been hoping someone is sprinting this evening so I can get my book done, reading Daughter of the Moon Goddess. Yeah, I heard a lot of good things about that. I think there's a audio of it on Scribd. I think Julie had that was running a quarterly book club a little while ago, and that was one of the books. I was hoping to read it, but I didn't get around to it. But welcome. And I've said I'll probably do another sprint after this. And I tell you why I might do another sprint is because I kind of want to read the start of the next chapter now. I've got really into my book. Enjoying the writing, but the characters and plot are a little lackluster right now, not faring yet, so I'm staying hopeful. So how did everybody else get on? I personally started reading, where are we? I've finished all the sections for today. So we were supposed to read up to the end of 185, and that's today's sections done. And it's all around viruses and how they infect the body, which is terrifying, but it's what they do. They're very, very efficient. I say efficient. Millions of them aren't efficient. So it just takes one to get through and it can get in and infect. But what it says here is that if you think about bacteria and viruses, it's got one of the funniest lines in it that I've read for ages. And it says, if you cut yourself and bacteria infect your wound, things are pretty straightforward. There is damage that immediately causes inflammation and attracts the immune system, and there are lots of enemies that don't exactly act super discreet, but more like a bunch of drunk toddlers in a candy shop. So that's bacteria. So when you get a bacterial infection, it's saying that they're kind of like drunk toddlers in a candy shop, just rampaging around. But then it goes on to say that virus is more like a stealth attack. So the virus doesn't want to alert your immune system that it's there. It wants to get in, replicate before your immune system realizes it's there. So it gives the analogy of the Trojan War, which I thought was really, really cool. So he says, like, imagine there's the big battle going on out in front with everyone running around screaming, killing each other, and that's the bacteria. But the virus will try and get in like a Trojan horse and sneak out and take over the households in the night and kill everybody in the houses in the night. So yeah, it was interesting. Good analogy. But the next section, it finished and it said here, houses and soldiers and citizens screaming and struggling and stabbing. What is actually going on here, and what sort of thing is the metaphor describing? Once again, we're about to encounter a wonderfully elegant solution to an incredibly complicated problem. The first real defense of your body has against viruses is chemical warfare. So the next chapter is called Chemical Warfare. Interferons interfere. So yeah, interested to read about how we fight against viruses, how we naturally fight against them, and then of course how we develop vaccines and things to fight against them. Just got to the drunk toddlers in a candy shop. Yep. Finished part 2. In the summary, he says, I am through the most complex parts. Yeah, I'm glad he said that as well, because that was wasn't a tough part to get through, because I think he kind of simplifies it quite well. But I did feel like I was like, oh, I don't know if I can take any more information. But he's like it's okay. This is probably the most complex part. He's kind of hand holding you all the way through this, isn't he? He's really good. I'm at the top of 184 and I'm still petrified of viruses. Well, I think this is the thing. I think we're all kind of a bit petrified of viruses after reading this. But that's why I want to read the next chapter. The next chapter is about how your body has a solution for all of this. Okay, Beth, I really want to get that book. If you like learning about the immune system, there's an anime called Cells at Work that is fantastic at showing how everything works too. Oh, thank you, okay, Beth. Do you think is that available, do you think, on YouTube? I get to see it on YouTube. Anime called Cells at Work. I'd like to check that out for sure. But yeah, I've really enjoyed today's chapters, and what's coming up, over halfway through the book now, I think. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it seems to be going really quickly. It'll be over by Friday, the read along, which I'm really surprised at. It's gone really quickly. I enjoyed when he was like, there is more, but we don't need to know that yet. It's later in the book. Yeah, so he's very good at sort of trying to keep your attention and dropping in, because at one point in here, he's talking about viruses, and he says, It's just a layer of complexity that is not necessary to get to the principles at play here. You really need to just remember only one thing. The virus is basically performing a hostile takeover of the machinery of your cell. So he stops in and he acknowledges how complex things are, and he acknowledges when different scientists have different viewpoints as well, which is really important, isn't it? Because science, from my very basic understanding of what science is, it's just continually disproving things, and like, you know, having a theory that like disproving other theories and having a new theory, and that's kind of science, isn't it? So it's kind of people making what they can of the data. I love those asides, and yes, they're great. Jem, she's bathed Charlie, finished my chapter of Elantris and listened to Kristen's messages up to the chapter. I need to check back in with her in the next sprint. So are you you feel like you're up to date now with it, Jem? That'd be good. I don't know if there are full episodes. There are definitely clips from it floating around. That's that anime cartoon. Apparently, some universities even recommend it to trainee doctors as a learning tool. Really? That's good. One of the lovely Readalongers in our group for the tandem Readalong is Your True Shelf, and she's a doctor and she's reading Immune and she's loving it. So yeah, she said that one of the chapters, which is on the complement system, which is really complicated, but it's one of the best ways she's heard the complement system explained, better than she had it explained at university. So right, so I was thinking of doing another sprint, because I think it'd be nice to get another sprint in. I definitely want to read a bit more of my chapter. So how did everyone feel about another sprint? I'm probably going to do it anyway, regardless, but just wondering how everybody feels about another sprint. And I did have, where are we? Yeah, some other things I wrote down earlier that I was like, oh, this is really, really awesome. And it was in part 2 when he talks about meeting your enemies and he talks about pathogens. And so he says he's in this book, when we're talking about pathogens, which are things that make you sick, essentially, we're mostly talking about bacteria and viruses nowadays. But in some countries, there are still single cell animals called protozoa. And an example of that is malaria. So I didn't realize malaria. I have no idea that malaria is not a virus or a bacteria. It's a protozoa, which is a single cell creature. Didn't realize that. Angie's up for that. She has a glass of wine now too. I feel like I need a glass of wine, actually. It's Saturday night. I need a little bit of wine to go with my reading. Has anyone else got a nice snack? Alice says, why not? 2 pages left to go for today. May have to join you in the next chapter. I feel like I was left on a cliffhanger, Alice. That's why I feel like I need this next chapter. Definitely. Because I've been learning about the scary viruses, and now I want to hear how my body fights back against these viruses, because it's been quite like... because it just reads like some sort of like real horror story. But then I suppose it's like, and I always find, you know, the sort of horror stories and horror films where you've got something like a parasite or something that takes something over, or those old like films about aliens from outer space. And what's that film? I used to love it, and there was a remake of it which had Donald Sutherland. And they grew other people. They kind of basically made copies of people, and that terrified me when I was younger. So this whole thought of viruses going inside and replicating, is just, frightening. Then some Jack Reacher to calm me down. That's a nice idea. I've got my copy of Rebecca over there, but I feel like I'm going to carry on with Immune for now, because it's just been such a good chapter. I studied the immune system a bit at uni. It's such a fascinating system. So this read along is making me very excited to read that book. Yeah, you know, as soon as I saw like what this was for the read along, very terrible with this. As soon as I saw this was the book for the read along, and had a look at it online, I was just like, yes, please, I want that. And what I wasn't expecting, because I've never watched before now, I've never watched Kurzagast, which is his channel. And I'm so delighted to have discovered it, because I think it's going to be one of my go-to channels now. It's just the way things are explained with humor and analogy. I'm just loving it. Really, really good science book. I can't recommend it highly enough, actually. Thank you. Yes, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I don't know why I couldn't remember that. I'm having a real bit of a, brain fog moment at the moment. Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So there's the 1950s one, which is black and white, and then there's the 1970s one with Donald Sutherland. And that chapter on viruses reminded me of that film. It used to freak me out. Oh my goodness. So let's see. And has anyone else read any other favourite bits so far? Or even if they're actual book, anyone not reading Immune, how are you getting along? Did you manage to do anything in the sprints? Any pages in the sprints, or how many did you manage? Let's see. You can let me know in the chat. All right. And by the way, if anyone here has not heard of the Tandem Collective before, I've got details, or you can see the details it should be in the description box. If you go to the Tandem Collective's YouTube channel or Google Tandem Collective online, they have so many lovely reading events, and they do. I think they put their attention to detail. Like, they sent us this sort of little kit for Immune, which was like full of these lovely teas. They also sent me some Fisherman's Friend, which, if you're from the UK, you'll know, like throat lozenges. I actually opened them the other week because I thought I was getting a sore throat. So I've had some Fisherman's Friend, and they sent us, like, you know, a little package, a little fun package along with it. But they do that. I did a read along with them a few years ago, and it was for the guy who wrote is Stuart Turton, I think his name is. He wrote The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, but his next book was set on a ship. And I have the book. What was the book called? And it was all about this ship in the 1700s, and it was on a that was it, The Devil in the Dark Water. And they sent me like a package with that as well, and they have like these challenges. So they've got a load of challenges to do for the read along, which I'm going to be doing a video of me doing the challenges, which I'll hopefully put up next weekend, and you can see all the challenges. But yeah, when you join Tandem read-alongs, they're usually over on Instagram if you've got an Instagram account, but they're now starting to do them. This is their first YouTube one, so hopefully the first of many. But just such a fun process, because they always put you in with a lovely group. The people who run the read-alongs and recruit people for it are wonderful. And yeah, they get some really great books, and they have like a really lovely audio book group called Plots and Pastimes, which was really great. I did one of their audio book alongs where you kind of do hobbies and listen to audiobooks. So anyway, just thought I'd mention the Tandem Collective, because it is down to them that we're doing this read along. Read about 40 pages so far. That's really good. That's excellent. Deserve a glass of wine now. I think we all deserve a glass of wine now. I might have to go and get one. So right, I'm going to put the timer back on so we can do a final sprint and see how we get on. So I'm going to reset my timer, start it. Hilda's done about 60 pages. Good work, Hilda. That's really good. I only managed about 20 today, and we did our sprints today of Rebecca. Reset, start. Okay, I'll see you all. Just share this. Share the timer. Might go and get myself a glass of wine. Go get yourself a beverage of your choice as well, and I will see you on the other side. Okay, hopefully that went off. Hang on a moment. Just make sure my headphones are plugged in and connected. How did everybody get on in that sprint? Hopefully got a good bit of reading done. I read quite a bit into the next chapter, actually. It's really, really interesting. It's all about how our body fights back against viruses. One way is to create a fever in your body. So when you have a fever, that's your body trying to heat everything up to kill off pathogens like bacteria and viruses because they don't like it. They don't like the heat. So your body sends like, you've got basically your brain starts signals for your body to heat up. And one of the ways it does it is to create your muscle spasms, which is shaking. So when you shake with a fever, that's actually creating heat within your body and trying to heat up your core to try and upset all the viruses and pathogens in your body. And a really interesting footnote about how they used, someone won a Nobel Prize for inducing fevers in syphilis patients, because syphilis was caused by a bacteria, and this was pre-antibiotics. And in the 1920s, what they did was they would, if they recognized the person had syphilis, late stage syphilis, which would cause meningitis and all sorts of create like really awful brain reactions, then basically what they would do is they would inject them with malaria, because malaria will give you a fever, a sustained fever over time, and the fever would cook out the bacteria that cause syphilis, and they got a Nobel Prize for that. It's pretty amazing. Finished another chapter. Good work, Ange. Yay. Managed 20 pages, 2 chapters. I'm starting to like the characters a lot more now. They're actually interacting one-on-one. Good. I'm glad to hear it. This is the thing, isn't it? At certain points you want the characters, you want to see how they interact with each other. And finished today's chapters, decided to save tomorrow's for tomorrow. Good. And got back into Jack Reacher to help me forget viruses. Excited for tomorrow's chapters. Also ate jelly beans and got a drink. I also got a drink. I had some vegan Sauvignon Blanc down the stairs. I'm not vegan, but it was what was at the shop the other day. But yes, so how everyone else get on? Just have a little quick check in the chat before we finish. There is another live sprint tomorrow over at 11 a.m. on What Victoria Read. So Victoria's channel, What Victoria Read. She's a very popular booktuber. Quite a lot of you might know who she is. But yeah, Victoria, I've subscribed to Victoria for a long time now. She's excellent. So yeah, she's doing her live sprints at 11 a.m. tomorrow, which I'm going to try and pop into, but I have got work in the morning. So I might not be able to join for the whole thing, but I will definitely be popping in at some point because I want to get tomorrow's chapters read as well. But yes, this read along is carrying on until the Friday the 26th, I think, is the last day of the read along. But there will be over on Alice's channel and mine, and Victoria's channel, and Chloe from Chloe Reads Books will be having extra content all about the immune challenges. And some of the other read-alongers, if you're taking part and you're not doing any of the live shows, but will you be doing any of the challenges? Will you be filming yourself doing any of the challenges? Be interesting to see. I can share some of the challenges with you guys so you can see what they are, because they look like they're going to be quite fun. Where did I put them? Yes. So challenge. Yeah, the immune read-along challenges, question cards. I'll open them up for you. Right, so I'm going to share the screen so you can see what they look like, the challenges. And if anyone's not doing any of the lives, but you want to do the challenges, hopefully you've received the challenge cards. I'm going to share my screen so you can see what they look like. Tomorrow's chapters, like this. Tomorrow's chapters are, we've got pages 186 to 210. That's day 9. And then we've only got 1, 2, 3, 4 more days after that. I'll be very sad to the end of the book. I'm really enjoying it. And these are the challenges. Creative challenge number 1. Which immune cell are you? Are you a T cell or are you more of a macrophage? So take the quiz below to find out and screen record yourself. And we've got challenge 2. Why Wiener antigens are a dish best served using an MHC class 2 molecule. What are your 3 dinner party facts from Immune? I think I'll try and avoid the poo transplant story over dinner. To be honest with you, dinner party facts about Immune. I think the one about, what would what would be appropriate dinner party chat? So anyone here so far, what would your dinner party chat be about, or facts be about Immune? So I think I'd go for the one about being attracted to people with immune systems that are dissimilar to yours, so that you give your offspring the best chance of immunity. I think that was really interesting. Just got through a book a few days ago. I'm only on got the book a few days ago. I'm only on chapter 3. Oh yes, Booking Through Life. So did you get this because you saw it over on Victoria's channel? That was what she said earlier, I think. Yeah, it's really good, really good. Sorry, I didn't know about the read-along earlier. I know. I think because it's their first read-along on YouTube, it wasn't sort of that widely publicised, I think. But I think their next one, they'll go all out. I think they're learning quite a bit from launching this one. Yes, from what Victoria read. Yeah, so she's got her sprints tomorrow morning if you want to join in those. And then some of the other challenges on here. Okay, Beth, I have an autoimmune disease, so anyone would probably be a great match for me. Yes, this is the thing as well. There's a really great section. Well, I think there's going to be more on autoimmune diseases, because I've got quite a few friends with autoimmune diseases. And yeah, it'd be really interesting to read about those and learn a bit more about them. Glad you're enjoying it, Mary. I found out about the read-along from Chloe, so I've been tuning into various lives. Now signed up to Tandem's newsletters. Yeah, anyone here, I would urge you to sign up to Tandem's newsletters, because they do really lovely reading events, like really, really enjoyable reading events. I think I've done 3 over on Instagram, but I'm less active on Instagram these days. YouTube's become like it's my place. YouTube's really my place. Okay, Creative Challenge 3. It says here, proteins can have countless different shapes, which you can imagine as 3D puzzle pieces. These are quotes from the book, by the way. Use one of the above immune system analogies to create your own. Make a time lapse of yourself drawing a representation of your analogy. Oh my gosh. Oh, that'll be fun. Challenge 4. If you accidentally give someone the gift of germs, awkward, why not also give them immune, so they'll understand how their body is fighting off those germs? Less awkward. Who is immune the perfect gift for? Who in your life would appreciate the gift of immune and learning more about the immune system? Honestly, I think pretty much everybody would really benefit from this. But I've got a couple of friends who I think, like you were mentioning, Kay Beth, that you have an autoimmune disease. I've got a couple of friends who have them, who have autoimmune diseases. So I think it might be really interesting, possibly for them. Although one of them, my friends, has become a health coach because of her condition, and she probably knows an awful lot about the immune system. But I think the facts in here are amazing. So yeah, I think I'll probably try and give it to one of them, or some of my friends who I went to secondary school with, because we had terrible science lessons and none of us went on to do sciences at university. So yeah, I think they would really benefit from it. Challenge number 5, check out Kurzagast YouTube channel, film your reaction to a choice of a Kurzagast video, and tell us which topic Philipp should write about his next book about. Gosh, so many topics he could write his next book about. I'm really excited to dive into more of his videos over on that channel. But yeah, I hope everyone has enjoyed the live. Let me know. I've quite enjoyed doing reading sprints as well, so I might do some more in future on the channel. If anyone's interested in me doing that, just pop it in the chat and let me know, because it's actually been lovely, because I've got a lot of reading done and I've got to sit and chat to you all, and yeah, it's been a really nice experience for me. So last few dates: tomorrow, Victoria reading sprints over on What Victoria Read at 11 a.m. for the Immune Read Along. Go and get the Tandem newsletter, Tandem Collective newsletter, and see what events they'll be running. And hopefully they'll be running some more over on YouTube. I imagine this is just the start of a wonderful journey on YouTube for the Tandem Collective. And go and watch Kurzagast if you've never heard of it before. Does anyone actually watch it? Because I can't believe I've never heard of it before. But I think majority of my YouTube watching, you know, when it starts suggesting stuff to you, it's always, for me, it's just generally reading related or productivity related or bullet journaling related, that kind of thing. So, you know, I'm not surprised it hasn't shown it up for me, but it's a great channel. Oh, yay, and you caught up. That's brilliant. Great news. Thanks for hosting. Have a nice rest of the evening. You too. Thanks for coming along. I appreciate everyone being here. Thanks for the sprints. I've subbed you now. Can't wait to see more from you. Thank you, Kay Beth. That's lovely. Thank you for subbing. Hopefully you'll enjoy some of my content going forward as well. So everybody else, I'm going to sign off, and hopefully I'll see you again on another video, and maybe on another sprint. You never know. I'm going to try and pop along to Victoria's sprints tomorrow, but it depends on what time I finish work at. So yeah, I'm going to pop in. Well, I will be popping along, but I don't know if it'll be from the start or towards the end, but I will be there for sure. Alice says, thanks, Jack. It's been fab. Thanks for the sprints. Had a lovely time. Thank you. Thank you all. All right. Good night, everybody. Enjoy your Saturday. Enjoy Jack Reacher. Bye, everyone.